So corruption can lead to lack of quality of construction, of services, etc. It's probably more visible from outside because people quote only the instances where corruption took place. I went to make my license or something and I had to pay some money, people will say. But those who got it made or without any problem, they don't talk about it. That is available in a school. One football, 500 kids. One school sports period in 1 week, 30 minutes. One kid gets to touch the football once per month. What kind of football players are you going to produce? I'm talking about sports here.
India is offering right now is low as compared to how the world and other developed countries are offering.
That's quite clear. It is definitely. That's why people want to go to the US or Canada or Britain or Australia. So they are more developed countries that the infrastructure, quality of life.
Hello, Vivek sir. Thank you for being on the Make Food podcast.
Hello.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
With this podcast, mainly we would want to get a perspective. We both personally feel that you have like a very broad perspective of life, about the nation, and also about certain things that you could guide us with. So we will start with there.
Sure. Very happy to be here.
Thank you so much.
Since you have been a civil servant, and I just want to ask a very simple question right now: that is India a good place to live in recent times?
I think it's a good place overall. I think it's a good country, a balanced country in terms of spirituality, calmness, democracy, understanding, empathy. Because it's a very, like you said, a very broad understanding, but it's a very diverse country. So I think India is a good place to live overall. But then there's so many disparities. There's so much poverty. There could be disagreements. There could be violence at times. But it's not a very dangerous place or anything like that. There are places in the world which are very dangerous to live in. So there are places, I won't name any countries because I don't want to spoil any reputation, but then big cities where downtown is like a mad place. You can get mugged, killed. India is not really like that. So safety wise, it's okay, although there are still issues of women and girls on the road not able to walk safely. There are issues of accidents on the road. You're crossing a road going from here, under something, over something, jaywalking, cars are fast, policing is not enough. But India somehow survives and people survive, and it's I think it's a good country to live especially because of the youth. And I think in future, India is progressing. And the best part, as I said, is the democracy, it's the homogeneity, yet the diversity.
Okay. Do you think the quality of life that India is offering right now is low as compared to how the world and other developed countries are offering?
That's quite clear. It is definitely. That's why people want to go to the US or Canada or Britain or Australia. Because they are more developed countries that way. Infrastructure, quality of life. But quality of life is a very complex term.
Yeah.
So quality of life in India today in any city has improved in terms of service delivery, right? Food delivery, goods, anything you want to buy, it's all at your doorstep.
Accessibility.
Yeah.
Foreign goods are here.
They're also here. And then often, colonies have locked up their gates, etc. So there's no dacoits coming into the colony. So I think it is overall okay. But you're right in hinting that, it's a long way to go. And there are parts of India which are still living in the previous centuries. So one saying that I quote in many podcasts is that India lives in many centuries at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we are at the moment in a podcast which is 21st century, definitely, and maybe even 22nd century. But the thing here is that there are people who haven't heard of podcasts. You can forget about podcasts. They haven't heard even of the basics, and they still basics are not right, and they're still thinking about not only caste system but also oppression of women and people who are not allowing women or poor people or certain castes to enter their homes, or it's a very direct thing to say on a particular period of every month the girl has to stay in the outhouse because she's undergoing some cycles. So there are lots of parts of India which are still underdeveloped in terms of mindset and infrastructure, and the system is another problem. It's a heavy system in terms of the government, in terms of the service delivery. It works, it just about functions, but there are many insensitivities which need to be rectified.
What can be done to close such a big gap that has been created because of such a huge, like, the tier system that we have here, like the people who are in tier one and people who are in tier four, there's a huge gap between the mindset, between the normal, basically. So, how long do you think that will take, and will it ever?
I don't think India will ever be completely homogeneous like Finland is or Denmark is, or everybody's 6'4", blonde, blue-eyed, and they look the same. They look great. They fit. The systems work. I don't think it's possible in India because we have so much diversity. Two Indians standing together, let's say a lady from Bengal who's a housewife, and a youth from Kashmir who's about 6'6", let's say. They couldn't look more different than each other. People from across the border might look similar to some of them. But the point is that I think it's going to take a very long time to raise the level of the lowest rung to a certain level which is acceptable and satisfactory. And then beyond that, the capitalist nature of the market and the economy will ensure that people who are rich will keep getting richer.
Yeah.
So we are not a country which is going to say it's not a communist country. So we are not going to say that, okay, you rich have to now part with your wealth and give it to them. We're not like that. We're not a dictatorial country. But I think in terms of knowledge, in terms of awareness, in terms of digital impact, in terms of certain ease of living, it will reduce. The gap will reduce that way.
Okay.
So even just to highlight, you go to a mall and you will find you don't know whether this youngster is actually a CEO, a young CEO, or he is an attendant at one of the stores in the mall, looking at him or her. So that way, it's a level playing field. But in the long run, I think the basics will get better,
Okay.
but the rich will keep getting richer.
According to you, like in India, if we talk about what are the few cities which are like perfect to live or like have a very balanced and high quality life?
So I've been director of tourism of Chandigarh earlier.
Okay.
IT, director IT. So I used to promote Chandigarh. So I can't say at all that any other city is better than Chandigarh because it comes naturally, and there's no doubt about it. I've traveled all over the world and India. I don't think Chandigarh has a match in India because and we compare Chandigarh with the past where it was even better. I would say about 15 years ago it was better. The traffic was less. The services were better. And I've been in the Chandigarh administration, so the municipal services have worsened because of the pressure of population and the political nature of the MC now. Not only in Chandigarh, in all over India, that MCs have not really done. The municipal governance is the worst. But I think Chandigarh is the best quality of life in many ways, in terms of per capita income, per capita education, per capita availability of resources, even the green spaces, the health parameters. People are fitter in Chandigarh than in a place like Ludhiana or Delhi because of the habits, because of the air, because of perhaps being conscious of health requirements, even all sections of society. Then I would say Pune is good, but Pune is a little bigger than Chandigarh. Bangalore is very good in many ways. The only thing is the traffic, which is terrible. But if you plan your day in Bangalore, I think people plan their day very well now. So they know how to live Bangalore. I think it's a great city. But of all these cities, Delhi I'm not talking about. I was born there, but it's very tough to live in Delhi, I think. But of all the cities in India, my favorite is actually Bombay.
Oh,
Okay.
The quality of life may not be the best, but I think it's a very challenging city, a very happening city, and a very also very professional city.
Yeah.
I think Bombay keeps you grounded and it gave me, like, as a 20-year-old perspective when I went there for the first time, stayed alone. When you have everything at your home, you have your parents giving you everything. When you go to a place like Bombay, you live there alone. You are cribbing about like the shower thing not working properly. But then on the same day, you go to like a railway station. You see people taking bath, the whole family taking bath from like the gutters. You feel grateful, you feel content that you have enough, you already have enough. And when you go back home, you feel like, oh damn, I'm so rich. Like, you feel blessed.
And then you saw see buildings and then you see
Yeah.
we are no one right now.
The prominent gap I feel in society is exactly visible in Bombay.
So, everything is relative, Konark. It's like I have reached, now, for example, today I saw my Instagram is 20,000 followers, finally. So they keep increasing bit by bit, of course. So 20,000, I'm very happy, or 20,000 followers. There are people in 20 lakhs or 2 million who are like, oh no, I've not got enough followers. Huh? So he wants more followers. So things are comparatively, you wherever you are in life, you always have somebody who's doing better and somebody who's doing worse. So it's very difficult to find the person at the extreme ends of both the spectrums.
Yeah.
Even Elon Musk may not be, in some ways, he may be the richest, or Bill Gates, or Warren Buffett, or Jeff Bezos. But in some ways, they may not be the richest in terms of their happiness within. So many things. So you can't find the extremes. Everyone's in the middle, and everything. If you compare with someone else, like Mumbai compared with Chandigarh, drawbacks and plus points both are there.
Talking about Chandigarh itself, I've been around Chandigarh since all my life almost. Nani ka ghar tha idhar. So I used to come here. I've seen like how Chandigarh has also grown. Both my parents have been in the Air Force, so I've been everywhere in the country, stayed some everywhere. I feel there's a very. I've stayed in Gandhinagar for my like entire schooling almost. Like 9 years I stayed in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. And I believe there is a very similar thing in Gandhinagar and Chandigarh, how things have been laid out, the sector aspect, the circle aspect.
I think Le Corbusier was there also. Maybe he didn't plan the city of Gandhinagar, but he planned a few buildings there. I'm the Le Corbusier, the architect of Chandigarh.
Right. Yeah, I think there is a huge influence, yeah, in both the cities. Are you aware about the Gift City project that is happening in Gandhinagar? Yeah, so with the bullet train coming also in Gandhinagar, I feel there will be like a huge market from people coming to Bombay, from Bombay coming to Ahmedabad because of the commute and everything. So I believe commute as a whole concept in the entire nation with the railways, with having like a government authorized air sector. How do you think we can improve like the railways, the bus system, and the flight system in India?
So I've been in public service, civil service. I've seen the transport sector. I've seen the urban services. Though I haven't been in these, let's say, hardcore departments myself much, except transport. I've been more in the soft departments like IT and tourism and public relations. But I've also been deputy commissioner. I've been other things, so I know. So I think the modernization definitely needs to be quickened. If you travel by train in India, you will find a lot of things belonging to the railways which are looking dilapidated, destructed. I mean, they're like they've seen the better days. Buildings which are abandoned, not being used. The resources of the railways are the maximum in the country. If you look at the amount of land they have, the amount of number of people they have, the equipment, machinery they have, if they bring in even 5% efficiency, they will become a richer, better organization, providing better services. So, if even one accident is happening in railways today because of lack of certain modernization facilities, then we should be doing something about it. Secondly, I think public transport in India is better than before, but commuting, as I was saying earlier, at times you get off the metro in Delhi or anywhere, you have to walk, let's say, 5 minutes. That walk to your office is potentially dangerous or anything. There could be a pothole, there could be a wire, there could be a cow, there could be a potato seller. So, I mean, not that the potato seller is dangerous, but the point is that there is a very interesting commute while walking. Plus, you have to be very watchful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In many countries or in Chandigarh, in certain sectors, you know that you don't need to be that watchful. You're safe. You know that my foot is not going to land in anything. Nobody's going to bite me or nothing is going to do that. So stray dogs, poor dogs. I mean, I'm an animal lover and we have a dog. I mean, it's not their fault, but they're there and they can attack also. So that way we need to improve all these services. I think railways need to become more efficient. Urban commutes need to be more friendly, and I think we need to give more options for travel within the cities. Metro, bus services within the cities need to be much better in India.
Do you think political corruption has a role to play in the lack of services that is provided by the government?
So I think it's more to do with lethargy and nobody having the vision to implement it. Corruption takes place where projects are taking place. If a bridge has fallen, why has the bridge fallen? A bridge should never fall.
Yeah.
I mean, the life of bridge should be 500 years, according to me. You look at ancient building, look at the Taj Mahal. I mean, it hasn't fallen, right? Why is this bridge falling? So there we can see some corruption happening. Corruption also is probably visible in public service delivery at times. But then IT has made a difference. I was also director IT. You look at the MCA 21, which is the Ministry of Company Affairs website. Now a person who has a company doesn't need to meet any officer with the file, and potentially there could be some corruption. Here he's filing it online, never met the guy. So he's got a password, he's got a user ID, he's got no TP, and he files his return 3 times, 4 times a year, whatever it is. So things have improved. But corruption is responsible for various things. I don't think corruption is responsible for this particular fact. I think more to do with lethargy, that we're not able to quicken the systems or improve the systems.
Can you explain like corruption? You said if a bridge is fallen, why it is fallen? Like how corruption is actually taking place inside it.
Is it
Like
just
what
cutting
is-
costs?
So obviously the material that they have put there, they have pilfered some of it, or they have not put in the material that they should have. If you tell a painter to paint your home, and you are in New Zealand on a trip and you say, "Oh, you just paint my home," and he's tempted to not put the paint that you asked for, but he's put a lower grade paint, then he's saved some money on that. So that kind of corruption, if it takes place, it's very serious, very bad for the country, especially where safety is involved. Let's say school buildings are being involved, and a school building, a room falls, children. I mean, it's dangerous. So I think that corruption, where the road is being relayed every 6 months, 1 year, and if it is genuine, because you have a river there and that river cannot be stopped and therefore it weathers the road, that's fine. But you have a perfectly fine area where about, let's say, 10 cars are plying on that road, it's a village place. Why should it break? So that kind of thing. So corruption can lead to lack of quality of construction, of services, etc. It's probably more visible from outside because people quote only the instances where corruption took place. I went to make my license or something and I had to pay some money, people will say. But those who got it made or without any problem, they don't talk about it. So corrupt practices are often highlighted that way, and people in the government may not all be, or even I would say a majority may be honest. But whoever is not honest needs to be rectified.
Like according to you, like which is the sector which is like most corrupted? Like it's like without paying something.
Very difficult to say for me that, but it's the enforcement part always, the regulatory authorities, the kind of authorities which could be licensing, which could be excise, which could be police. But it's very difficult. I can't say that these departments are not honest. You can't say that.
Okay.
You can say that there are certain departments where corruption will not exist. And the army is a great example of an honest organization. If 1% or 0.1% of the people there are also indulging, that is a very universal phenomena. But 99% of them are honest, that means an honest organization.
I feel a major part of like the taxes also go towards the defense forces in India, right?
They do, and to an extent they should.
Yeah.
Because the security of the country is very important. India is surrounded by other countries. We have problems with a couple of neighbors, and we have problems now with all the neighbors actually. But some of them we have serious problems. So I think we need to be safe and secure and whatever adequate. So I think education, healthcare, and defense, they need the maximum priority in terms of allocation, if whatever is necessary. We are not putting enough of our GDP in education and healthcare actually. We'll become a more developed country if we do. But defense, we are putting an adequate amount. I don't know whether it's enough. I don't think the defense services would be happy with whatever they're getting. But then India is a poor country. Whatever they're getting, I think the government is each government has to be very secure about it.
Why does a country like USA, where people are educated, where the basic needs are not about education, food, because these are fulfilled. Their main concern is people. I went to the US recently. I see people are very relaxed in their life. Like here, we are hustling. Like majority of our population is working hard on the streets and everything. But in the US, people are relaxed.
I don't think that's true. I've been around. People are not relaxed as such. Maybe their basics are in place. I agree with you there that the basics are in place, right? But education-wise, also, yeah, the minimum education is there. But if you look at Americans overall, their awareness levels, their voting patterns may not be as sensible as we thought they should be. So, India has problems, but literacy has improved. Literacy has definitely improved, and I think free education for kids has made a difference. You still have beggar children on the road, and I always put down my window, and say to the child, "I'm not giving you any money. You must tell your parents that you want to go to school." And that child looks at me. I said, "Tell your mama that I'll go to school," because the mama papa have put them in the begging industry. So the child has never seen school. So when I was posted in Panchkula, we put about 150 or maybe 200 kids into school forcibly. Forcibly means without their parents' agreement, into government school. And when these beggar kids went to school, then they realized that this is also a part of life. They never knew. And then they stopped begging. Even a 7-year-old child will, no, I want to go to school. So that kind of thing. So I think things can be done with initiatives like that.
You mentioned like India is surrounded by countries which are like not friendly anymore. I've heard somewhere and even read somewhere that India is surrounded by mostly enemies now.
Yeah, enemies is a strong word. There are probably two countries which are, that China and Pakistan, India has to be more careful about. But the other countries also, I think we need to mend relations. Because if the number of countries matter, they may not be big countries, but they matter. And Bangladesh is a big country actually. Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bhutan, all of them need to be friends with India. We need to be friends with them.
Okay, do you think like India is like working enough in education sector?
I don't think so. I think that is a very important point you're raising. Education, I think I've been director of school education. Education in the government schools needs to be better. The motivation levels of the teachers in the government schools are very low. They don't get paid extra for better teaching. They may be honored at the end of the year, some of them 5%, not 5%, 5 people. So I think they need more pay scales. They need more respect, teachers. And government school teachers, if they are regular, if they are enthusiastic, then they make a difference to the nation. All these little kids who are in schools, they are, they're looking at the teacher. Who do they look at? You, I, everybody. We grew up because of our teachers. We learned a lot. And I remember a teacher of mine, I've got a reel on this, that he said good boy to me in school in front of everyone. I was a new boy in class 9. I came from Delhi, a Delhi school to a Chandigarh school. And I was a nervous type of person at that time in class 9. After a month or so, I gave a good answer in the class, and he's a good boy. And I still remember that good boy, and everybody's looking at me. It was rare for him to say good boy to anyone. And so teachers can make a mark in their lives, or the lives of children. And education needs more budgets, more facilities, more training should be there, more leadership. Very important.
The thing that we study in like the board system that we already have, it's mainly about, it feels that way that we need to mug up a lot of stuff and then write it down on paper, and we judged on basis of that. While looking outside, there are different things to, building up a personality.
Absolutely. So this part is very important. So the new education policy takes care of it, but nobody has started. I mean, they have, some have, but everybody, there's so much of implementation left. So that creative learning, social emotional learning, these are technical terms being used now. Well, few schools have adopted that. And I have a quote in my book. My book is called Finding Success Within, the third one. And in that, I have a quote which I wrote. I was just writing, so it came out. It says, life is not about marks. Life is about making a mark. So that making a mark will come from a different kind of education. You're creating personalities. You're not asking them to, learn this to 100 pages and come for the exam. It doesn't work that way. So analytical thinking, empathy for others, complete human beings, personalities will come from that. I think it's very important that the education system encourages creative thinking, and you all will agree with me. And I'm sure that very few of us have had the benefit of such education in India, and that's why people still prefer to go abroad for better education in the higher education realm, because we're still not. But I'm associated with Shulini University, for example, in Solon. And this university is focusing a lot on education creatively and, minor major combinations, flexibility. So there are schools and institutions which are doing it. So they need to be emulated.
But do you think, like, since you mentioned that India is not doing enough in education sector, but the kind of education we are talking about is like advanced education, where we are talking about oral personality, emotional health, well-being, and everything. But if the basic is not being taken care of, how can we expect?
You're right. Absolutely right. I agree with you, Hardik. You see, the football that is available in a school, one football, 500 kids. One school sports period in 1 week, 30 minutes. One kid gets to touch the football once per month. What kind of football players are you going to produce? I'm talking about sports here, but that all round development, and you're right, when the basics are not there, then how can we talk about it? But then I think there are certain things the teachers can do which are activity based, even if resources are a problem. I think resources are not a problem of that extent now. They should get more sports equipment, etc. A teacher taking the kids to the jungle or the forest, not maybe not the jungle, but the natural place, they learn more in that one day. But has the teacher taken the initiative to do that? So outdoor learning, experiential learning, children visiting the local post office, the museum, more of that needs to take place for that, and that doesn't require too much of budget also. So I think and parents have become more aware also. So there's certain things which require budgets and basics, and certain things which require only initiative.
Talking about sports, you mentioned we were listening to your other podcast. You said that you used to play under 19 cricket.
Yeah,
as
I
well.
played twice. Seek and I do twice.
And there was a link between drugs and sports that we were
absolutely.
listening to.
Yeah.
So since we are sitting in Punjab, Haryana right now, which is
Yeah.
I think drug capital
Yeah,
somewhere.
there's a lot of problem in Punjab,
Yeah.
especially. Yeah.
So, like, you were explaining how sports can cater the problem of drugs in India.
Yes.
Can you, like, elaborate?
I would
on
like to
that?
reiterate that on your podcast, that the more people play outdoors, even older people, the less negativity will arise. So 1 hour outdoors, or 40 minutes, or even half an hour outdoors, walking, running, badminton, football, whatever, cricket, sport will create happy hormones. First of all, you ask any doctor, the 4 types of happy hormones: oxytocin, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin. And all these may not come from sports, but they also come from conversations, coffee, good things in life. So what I'm trying to say is that sports is one of the major ways in which people stay away from intoxicants, from negativity, from self-pity, overthinking, worry, stress. I have 5 points on avoiding overthinking, and number one is physical fitness. A physically fit person will not be as depressed because he's done or she's done that physical exercise. The body and mind respond positively. And then creative thinking is very important. And then meditation, and I also talk about conversations. These things help us. But coming back to sports, I think definitely if Punjab is more into sports, they will be less into drugs, the youth. And if you look at Haryana, it is better at sports and the drugs are less. It is a correlation almost.
Okay.
Also, I feel the Gen Z, basically our generation, as you said, like the conversation that we are having, us going out on a coffee, that is a social bond that we like have seen in the past, being very, that's how socializing is done.
Yeah.
But for Gen Z, having like a social bond, if we follow each other on Instagram, or like, if we are connected socially, that is more important today. It's considered more important than us going out for a coffee. What do you think of that realm that we're entering there? Because that is the future.
I think both are important, but either one should not be overdone. So if somebody follows me on Instagram, send me a message, sir, I liked your video. It's a way of social communication. I agree with you totally. I'm a motivational speaker. I need to be on Instagram, and my constituency is the youth, your age group, and they respond. But there are certain things which can only be discussed over a coffee. A career plan, a relationship plan, a sports choice, a shift from one house to another, or deeper things,
Yeah.
So I personally think parents and their kids also should spend more time talking to each other. Lunchtime, dinner time, meal time is also consumed by phones or different timings, etc. And if people sit and chat over coffee, over anything else, I prefer coffee. It really adds to the depth of understanding. And the Harvard study of 70 years, which I often quote, where successive professors studied successive generations, 70 years of study gave them the conclusion that those who talk to others, listen to others, sit with others, socialize, they live longer, healthier lives, as opposed to people in isolation. And today, if it's only screen time and not enough sleep, I travel across India, I go to IITs, etc. And if they're only on screen time, they're not going to be mentally healthy. So both are required.
But we are building up to that. Like the next thing is virtual reality. We are moving towards that realm.
How are you going to have a coffee?
The coffee is not going to be as essential. Us going outside.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm having my coffee, you're having your coffee. It's okay. COVID, we did that. There were weddings in Chennai. I think the example came. 100 lunch plates were delivered at 1 p.m. to 100 families who were attending the wedding virtually. And that 100, or maybe within half an hour, they all got the identical food in Chennai, all the guests, but they're all virtual because of COVID or whatever it was. But there are certain things which cannot be replaced. It is going to that. I agree with you. But there are certain things. I've got a TEDx talk on AI versus HI, human intelligence. A pat on the back, a hug, a handshake, a smile cannot be replicated in virtual. Smile maybe, but the rest cannot be. So I think it's very important for conversations, human interactions to take place in the real physical realm also, as much as possible.
Okay.
Just one last thing adding on to this topic itself. Social value now. So if somebody has like, let's say 1 million followers today, and we normal human beings meet that person, the way we interact with that person totally changes. You know, they are also like normal, but they have like a social validation because of the number of following. I feel that is also a very good conversation for the future generation, because a lot of people have started to make personal brands because they see the real validation that they get when they meet somebody.
No, I agree with that. See, when I go to a college and speak, if I tell them right in the beginning that I came on the Ranveer show twice, their ears are like this and they're like listening very carefully to me. Huh? Otherwise, I have to build up. I challenge myself actually. I speak almost every day somewhere.
Yeah.
So I challenge myself. Today, I'm not telling them about the Ranveer show. Let me see how much they listen to me. So then I start, I build up, and I usually, as a speaker, I have their attention. At the end, I'll tell them. If I haven't told them in the beginning that this, then they're like, oh, really? I said, good, I didn't tell you in the beginning. Otherwise, you would have listened to me because of that, because of million followers or something which is, exciting that way. But then you have to prove yourself every day. In cricket, we say you start from zero every day. So why should I can't start from 104 unless it's the test match and I'm not out 104. Yeah.
Yeah, talking about cricket, since I think you've been playing cricket for a very long time. Yeah, same. So, have you met a lot of cricketers?
Yeah, I have, and I'm very lucky. My wife Nina tells me that you're very lucky to have fulfilled at least part of your. So I wanted to be a cricketer. I played Sikh and Naidu twice, and then I had to. I mean, it didn't happen. Engineering happened. This that. But then I've been organizing in my father's memory a tournament, which is the JP Atre tournament, for 29 editions. I have met almost every cricketer in India because they've all played in our tournament, top level. PCA hosts it, BCCI approves it. And almost, except for maybe 10 Indian cricketers in the last 20 years, all of them have played our tournament. Sachin has not. So let us say that I'm also now part of a few cricket initiatives and groups where I personally know test cricketers. I've also gone and spoken to the Indian hockey team as a motivational speaker. I motivated them, talked to them for half a day once. I've also go and talk to Air India teams and all in cricket. And I've also been to the NCA to meet Mr. VVS Lakshman, who's the director. And VVS we've been talking about certain things. So yeah, it's good.
Like, since you mentioned you were present there for 29 editions.
Yeah.
Like, what all were the players who actually played that?
Yeah, so Dhoni has played, Ganguly has played, Sehwag, Yuvraj, Harbhajan. Even the latest ones are Rishabh Pant and Pandya brothers have played that tournament.
Okay.
That's JP Atre tournament. It's big.
So like all of them have played that tournament and then they have selected for?
Some of them have been selected later, and some of them like Rohit Sharma, Ganguly and all, they were already playing for India when they played our tournament.
Have you ever met Virat Kohli?
He hasn't played.
He loves it.
He's been a catch.
I haven't met Sachin Tendulkar and Virat Kohli and many others whom I want to meet. Yeah.
Okay.
I met Glenn McGrath, I met Sehwag, great Kapil Dev.
You met Mahendra Singh Dhoni, right?
I met Dhoni twice.
How is he as a person?
Very humble, very balanced. Yeah.
Very calm.
Very calm. Very calm. I give his example in my emotional intelligence PPTs, lectures. I have a photograph of him. How multi-dimensional and calm he is. And the only time he lost his cool was when he walked onto the field in the IPL and fought with the umpire. He never done that in his whole career.
Okay.
What do you think is like at the core of being calm?
I think meditation helps you a lot. I think it's your attitude. I think being restless and wanting to do this and that and the other all the time is not really a good idea, because sometimes, and you take your best decisions when you're calm. So as a spiritual practitioner, I follow Paramahansa Yogananda, author of the autobiography of a yogi. Yoga Satsang lessons. Kriya Yoga is my meditation technique. There are lessons which we follow. And he tells us that calmness will make you more productive in the rest of the day, the meditation that you do. So, like you've seen this in our podcast today, the aura is nice, the vibe is good. It's because of the fact that we are emitting those vibes because of something we've been doing.
Yeah.
So the spiritual aspect helps us in the material world also.
I want to draw a comparison basically. So it's like cricket and UPSC.
Sure.
So the chances of a youngster getting selected to an Indian team is almost negligible. Like you have to have a lot of luck.
I also draw this comparison.
In UPSC as well, there are lakhs.
It's a much better ratio in UPSC, which is a very bad ratio, but Indian teams worst ratio.
Yeah. So like, why still people are playing cricket? Still people are trying for UPSC. What is that one factor that actually keeps them motivated to even achieve, which is almost unachievable?
I think human beings are, they're a little crazy.
Yeah.
So it's good to be crazy. Logically, this is not going to happen. And there is a saying which is very motivational. I'm glad you're ending on such a note, or almost ending now, I think. The bumblebee is so heavy for its size that, as per the law of physics and aerodynamics, it should not be able to fly. But the bumblebee doesn't know that, so it flies anyway. So it's a great quote. And some people have it on the wall. So a cricketer who's aspiring for India knows that the chances are almost like 0.0001%, but he tries anyway. And the IAS aspirant has a chance of 0.1%, which is far better. So he tries.
I think self-belief is like a superpower that humans can achieve anything that they put their mind to.
And people like us are reaching it. So I think the human being who's aspiring for something like, he sees, yeah, this guy, Yashasvi Jaiswal, Rinku Singh, very poor families and reaching the skies without any support, having to even look after their own basics. Yeah. We are from families where we didn't have to look after the basics. My father was an IPS officer, you all from comfortable families. So, but if he can do it, even someone like Virat Kohli or Sachin Tendulkar, middle class, they reach there because the family support. So we think that we can also do it.
Yeah.
So no harm. I think without that passion or fire, what is life otherwise? And then knocks also have to come. Self-belief is there. Then you get some reverses. What would life be otherwise? Everything shouldn't go according to plan also.
So talking about the UPSC thing, like people only resonate UPSC with being IAS, IPS officers. Right. So can you explain that there are other services as well which you can opt for if you appear for the UPSC exam?
So there are many services in the UPSC ambit. So they are the Indian civil services as a whole, and so IAS, IPS, the Indian Foreign Service, the Indian Revenue Service, the Indian Audit and Account Service, the Indian Forest Service is a slightly separate exam also. But then there are many central government services which are in the same ambit. And there are even DANIX, I think, is through the UPSC exam, which is the Delhi UT services, Delhi Andaman Nicobar. Then there are state civil services exams, as you know, Punjab Civil Service, Haryana Civil Service, UP Civil Service, Himachal Administrative Service. And these I was in the Haryana Civil Service, and then I got into the IAS. 1/3 of the people in the IAS are promoted from the state civil service. 2/3 of them come through the UPSC exam qualification. So I think all these services make the country what it is and the government what it is. It's not only the IAS or IPS. I think the backbone is provided by all of them together. I think 800 or something officers are selected every year through the UPSC exam. But then 800,000, 8 lakh people appear. So the ratio is very low. And out of those 800, about 100 are IAS officers, or maybe more. So basically, it's a composite exam.
Okay.
What does it take to be an IAS officer?
We have to crack the exam. Basically, it takes a lot of perseverance in the competition. It has to be a lot of multi-dimensional awareness and sharpness, intelligence, hard work, strategy, communication skills, luck. There's so many people who are as good as you and they didn't get through, you got in, or you didn't get in, they got through. It happens. A lot of things happen because the competition is very intense because most people are reasonably good over there. And there are people who are not very capable, but they're still appearing. Parents are pushing them. And I tell everybody that 2 attempts are good enough to know where you stand.
Yeah.
Why are you going for the 3rd attempt and taking more time out of your life if you're not prepared?
Okay. So I've also heard that if someone appears for a interview, that final interview, and they fail at the interview, then they have to repeat the whole process.
There are people who joined IPS and wanted to appear again for IAS, and they couldn't clear the prelims the next year.
Oh.
They couldn't clear the prelim exam the next year. So you start from zero. It's just like a test match. Next test match, you're on zero.
Okay.
We'll just conclude the podcast. I just wanted to ask you, like you mentioned about, you seem to be like a very spiritual person. You seem very calm also.
Yeah.
What do you think is like life?
I think life is about finding that joy within. And that joy within comes from factors which are not external. It's on your attitude. And when you become spiritually minded, you start seeking answers to what is God and where is God and how do I meditate and I need to set aside time for spiritual pursuits. All you can do is set aside time and make an effort. God is not going to, you don't have to, you can't find Him by switching on a switch. So you keep trying to discover that peace within. So peace within is God. Joy is God. So I think that answer will come from, everybody can do that and everybody needs to do that. In today's era of being always on and always connected, always often stressed out, there are stress-related illnesses. I think meditation is physically, mentally, and spiritually beneficial. So spirituality needs to be adopted at a young age. That's it.
One last question I would like to ask you. If someone who is like 21, 22, 23 of our age watching this conversation, what would be that one advice you would like to give them for life?
I think that's a good question. I think they should look for joy in whatever they do. They have to get into a career which they love or at least they like. There shouldn't be a compulsion. If there is a compulsion, try to get into something more like what you like. You want to be a cricketer or a Hollywood, Bollywood actor, you couldn't be that. That was your first love. Find something which is reasonably fine. It's similar to getting married to someone. You couldn't find your first love, you found someone else. But that person should not be such that you can't get on with them. And the same is the career. So find the best that you can in life, but ultimately find joy in whatever you do. And give back to society. Be empathetic. And find the spiritual element also.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
sir,
so
for
much.
this.
It's been lovely. Very nice conversation. I enjoyed it.
Same here, sir.
Same here.
Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.